Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between Roxas's BratOK versus Root Gaming's Minigun here on Shakuras Plateau. We have Root Minigun spawning as the teal Protoss player on the bottom left hand side of the map. Meanwhile, on the top right hand side of the map, we currently have Roxas BratOK spawning as the red Terran. So Terran versus Protoss once again here on Shakuras Plateau. Now with these cross spawning locations, here on Shakuras Plateau, that means that these destructible rocks will not be able to make much of a difference at all, as you do not have easy access into your opponent's base. There are still two Zelnaga watchtowers, one here and one here, which may come into play just because they reveal a center portion of the map and will allow for you to see if your opponent is trying to do any early rush or any early move outs with his units. Now with this, because of the cross-spawning locations, I would be surprised if both players try to do any one-base play, as the time it takes to get your opponents into your opponent's base does take a little bit longer. So with that, I think we should be seeing some early expansions. I have seen people try to, or have seen Terran players try to go for a 16 or 16 expansion here on Shakuras Plateau, but that's mainly against Zerg players. Meanwhile, I have also seen Protoss players go for a Forge expansion, but once again, that is also mainly against Zerg players here on Shakuras Plateau. We now have a gateway coming in, so it doesn't look like it's going to be a very fast expansion, as we now already have the barracks and the refinery being built by the Terran player. The probe will be able to come inside and now takes or deal some damage towards this one SCV. No, not dealing any damage towards it. And will Minigun go after the extractor again, or the Vespene Geyser? It does not look like it, as that one probe just wandering around. He may try to warp in an assimilator in order to block his opponent's gas, as he has done in the past, and it looks like he is going to do that once more. A Marine is now being trained, and that probe will be able to leave. SCV now making its way out. You can see the assimilator over here currently mining away, and now the one probe, I guess if the probe really wants to be sneaky, it could try to move in and try to actually take down or try to get some gas out of that assimilator, hide in there and then go mine minerals and then go back and forth just to annoy a player by stealing minerals and stealing gas. The probe coming back in once again. The assimilator is currently losing 6 shields per attack, as we may get a Reaper out in just a moment. That probe just sitting on the ramp, trying to get as much sight and as much scouting information as possible. The probe now coming in once again, and that Marine is being very smart in not permanently attacking the assimilator, but just staying nearby it close enough in order to make sure that if the probe does try to come in, he does deal some damage back. We now have a Stalker being chrono boosted, the warp gate research now being started as well, as that SCV is still wandering around on the inside. The Stalker will pop out in just a moment, and I think the SCV has gotten the memo to leave, and with a little bit of a head start, that SCV will be able to escape with no real problem. A Reaper now able to hunt down and take down that scouting probe, as we now have a command center being built over here by BratOK. So BratOK is going for a very fast expansion, and it was spotted by that earlier probe. So that earlier probe did stick around long enough to see that there is command center there, and now we also have an SCV sitting over here as well. If we do get a Nexus warped in, a proxy factory would work out fairly well, as Hellions would be able to run down. I've also seen a proxy factory for Thors, but that was during a very early portion of the game when Protoss players generally relied too much on sentries in order to try to fight back. In order to fight back against mass infantry. But now that stalkers and zealots are much more commonplace, and now one scouting SCV has been taken down. The Reaper now coming in along the backside may be able to get in a couple of quick kills, as the warp gate research has yet to be completed and there are no units inside the base. So BratOK should be able to just come in and now get some damage. He is scouting around and now going after probe. One probe is now taken down. A second probe should be taken down in just a second. 1, 2, 3, getting another probe. 1, 2, 3. He realizes that his life is very short, and now taken down by that Stalker. We now have a pylon here, so Stalkers will be warped in along this side and try to push in. There are some SCVs already ready. One Marauder, no concussive shells just quite yet, and now upgrading to an orbital cannon. Double mules can be called down there, and now the Stalkers perhaps going to try to test the waters. SCVs are on auto repair, always very important for SCVs to be on auto repair, to make sure, in order to make sure that as soon as any damage is dealt, that they do deal some. And now an SCV walking down the ramp, trying to run away. The sentry will be able to get that final shot off, And there you go, SCVs in preparation, now moving away in order to make sure that they do not fall behind in mining. BratOK, it does have this other orbital command and now will be trying to move out. No, in an effort to change things up, going to expand to the 12 o'clock position instead. There is the other supply depot now up there, and now the Marauders and Marines are going to try to take down these destructible rocks. Will these units walk up in time? There are no SCVs nearby, so that's going to be very, very easy for those Stalkers and Zealots to simply charge up that ramp, especially with the effects of a Guardian Shield. We can see that these destructible rocks are already down to 400 hit points. It will get destroyed in just a moment. And as soon as this gets taken down, SCVs may be transferred. The only difference is that he does not want to put down those refineries, otherwise it will be revealed by this Xel'Naga Watchtower here. Marauders and Marines getting ready, double training more Marines, and now also having Ghost joining in on the fight. So a Ghost with an EMP Shockwave will be able to clear out the energy on those Stalkers and to deal 100 damage towards those shields, effectively reducing the life of this army by almost half. The Ghost now just sitting off on the far side there. Will enough damage be dealt at pylon out of the range of any serious siege tanks, as probes now being transferred? So you can see SCVs are being transferred into this location here, and luckily for BratOK, he is only running off of, or he's only trying to produce barracks units, and that should allow him to continue to just train up more and more, as it is not as gas relying as, say, mech or any Banshee airplay. Army-wise, the BratOK now more than double in size, as the Marines now trying to test the waters, sees that the army is still down there, and a Ghost, if he's able to get an EMP Shockwave off, could be able to just deal so much damage across that location there. You can see that the sentries are trying to split up a little bit more to make sure, because all it would take is a sentry in order to get one force field there and then move away. Back here, we can see that the probe currently has no idea about the expansion at the 12 o'clock location. The units are starting to move down the ramp. There are a lot of Marines in that group. Production-wise, this combat group could have easily destroyed all of those Stalkers, Zealots, and Sentries. The Sentries being very smart and returning in order to live and fight another day. Stalkers now sitting off over here. Production-wise, Immortals and the Robotics Bay. So this is buying a lot of time for Minigun in order to tech up to Colossus. The sentry, or the probe over here, now sees that there is a refinery being placed there, and he knows that most likely that 12 o'clock expansion has been used. There is an observer out as well, and now this pylon will get shut down very, very easily, as a factory now on the move. Starport is being built, and now also the Marines and Marauders making their way over towards that one probe. It has been shot down with relative ease. And now the army units are on the move once again. Another command center being built at the 3 o'clock expansion location in order to try to get ahead in the economic game. Income-wise, both sides are about even. 50 probes versus 44 SCVs and 1 mule. Production-wise, you can see more units are still being trained. A lot of sentries. And if the Ghost is able to, where is that Ghost? If that Ghost is able to get an EMP Shockwave off, it should be able to deplete all the energy on those shields. And there you go, there's that EMP Shockwave, but another sentry over here instead. And now, oh, that one sentry almost shot down. No real sight, no scanner sweep revealing it. And that Colossus with that extended thermal lance range nearing completion should be able to deal a lot of damage. But there are a lot of sentries here, and the army deciding to back off. One observer could have just been shut down there, as that factory now on the move. Robotics Bay about done with that extended thermal lance range. Marauders and Marines on the move even further. Level 1 armor upgrades, as medevacs are starting to join the army as well. So those medevacs looking to perhaps do a drop in just a moment. The factory now coming into over here. It wanted to perhaps land in this location and stop an expansion from being set up. The factory now sees that there is a nexus there. The backdoor rocks have been taken down, and now a Marine making sure that these rocks do not get destroyed prematurely. We can see a very large army of Marauders, Marines, 1 Ghost, and 1 medevac sitting outside at this choke point here. More units still being added, and for some reason BratOK seems like he isn't macroing up nearly as much as I would expect at this stage. His income sitting on 51 harvesters, he should be able to macro up a much larger army very, very easily. Double training medevacs, Marauders, Marines, and Ghost. You can see the factory is still hiding off over here. The observers still revealing plenty of scouting information towards BratOK, or against BratOK. as now double Colossus sitting on that front door. Armory now being built as well in order to get higher level 2 and level 3 infantry upgrades for those units, and perhaps even get a Thor or 2. Siege tanks would also be useful as well, but I do not think that they will be coming in anytime soon. We also have Marauders and Marines hiding off over here. A drop may come in just a moment, as the Marauders, Marines, and one Ghost now in full retreat. So as this army of Minigun gets larger and larger, I think Minigun is going to be able to take his advantage and continue to run with it, unless we have some brilliant drop play by BratOK. BratOK does currently have a factory over here, so he is able to see up onto this high ground. The Marines and the Marauders are now getting into position, and now that Ghost, the Marines trying to stim in, trying to get some damage. It looks like there is also a photon cannon there. That one assimilator will get destroyed with relative ease, and then pull back once again. The army now of 4 Colossus, Sentries, and Stalkers are on the move, and that's going to be a problem. If Minigun does not keep his main army together, the main army here will be able to easily destroy it, especially as we are now getting vehicle plating upgrades and level 2 infantry weapons. So perhaps he wants to get some Thors later in order to be able to absorb a lot of damage from those Zealots. As the Marines, Marauders, and Ghosts are now moving out, the Colossus are now getting in position. The Medivacs already there, and where's those force fields? There you go, splitting off that army just in half there, and now making it very, very easy. Those those Colossus and Sentries, such a nice, strong combination of units. Without each other, their effectiveness drastically reduces, but by being able to prevent a retreat, the losses were significantly higher for BratOK, as I don't think Minigun lost anything really in that battle, as now more and more Colossus are being added to this ball. 7 Colossus now being added in, a lot of Zealots as well, as a drop should be coming in just a moment, perhaps dropping along here or here. There is one robotics facility there, and now the units are in full retreat. Are they going to do a drop? Yeah, dropping into this location here. The Medivacs and the Marines and Marauders should stim and then try to move out and deal some damage, but the main fight is happening over here, so Marauders and Marines are trying to push out and now dealing a lot of damage towards those Zealots. The Stalkers, Marauders are trying to flank around the other far side, but the Marauders and Marines here are still not getting the memo that they should be attacking at any time. The Colossus are now simply falling to the Vikings that are now in the air. The Marauders continue to try to push, and the Marauders are now going after those Ghosts. Back over here, the Marauders and the Marines are taking down some of those key tech buildings, as well as the Vikings are now finishing off one Marauder against a whole army or 3 Zealots, and with proper kiting should be able to take down a lot of the Marines and Marauders. Continue to push in. The Medevac looks like it will get shot down, but the Marines and Marauders should be able to get more damage. No, running straight into a Colossus there, and now taken down. So both sides losing a lot there, but somehow BratOK on the winning end of that battle. His army, I believe, is a little bit larger. Yeah, double in size right now. But both of them share the same amount of food, and that is because Minigun has 86 harvesters compared to 66. And that is a very, very large difference in terms of economy. Eventually, as these mules start to dry up, the mules will change the game even further. Are there even any mules? No mules. Okay, so this is simply because these probes are just beyond saturation here, and now the Marines and Marauders are going to try to push out. Once again, there are a decent number of Colossus. The Colossus have level 1 weapons upgrade. Marauders and Marines are trying to battle it out. Stalkers need to focus down onto those Vikings as the Zealots are continuing the charge, but the Marauders and Marines are pulling back continually, finishing off the Colossus. And wow, a devastating blow, as the Marauders and Marines should be able to finish off the rest of these Zealots. But the main Stalker army once again coming back in. The Vikings coming into ground mode now. So Vikings now dealing with the Stalkers. The Marauders and Marines need to re-engage. The Stalkers are going to be able to clean up many of those Vikings. The Marauders now trying to push through. Once again, there is some Immortals, and the Immortals are going to be able to deal a lot of damage towards those to the Vikings if the Vikings actually stayed on the ground. SCV is now being transferred to another base here, so it is going to be running off of a new 3 bases in just a moment. BratOK now getting a very strong economy once again by calling in more mules, and those mules are going to continue to help him out. Back over here, we have probes now making their way over into this expansion location, but Root Minigun most likely going to lose it in just a moment. There is one Raven in the air, and now the Stalkers are going to try to engage, both sides battling it out. The Zealots are now simply charging, and there's the force field. So the force field is now down, and now feedback onto the Raven. The Raven very low on hit points now. The Marauders should perhaps just try to snipe down the Nexus while they have the cover of the force fields. And now barreling back down once again. Immortals simply getting demolished by Marauders now, because of the amount of Marauders in that battle. You cannot say that Marauders are broken in that battle just because there was about triple the amount of Marauders then, or triple the food count of Marauders than Immortals in that battle, as the Marauders continue to just walk up that ramp and finish off multiple probes. Vikings now taking down this Nexus here, and wow, Minigun is now desperately in trouble once more. High Templars being warped back in. They do not have the amulet research, so they do not have enough for Psystorm just quite yet, as we are now getting 3 more Ghosts and a new Raven to join the battle. One Raven very low on hit points, down to 14, slowly trying to regenerate energy once again as it makes another move. Currently, Minigun stuck on only 2 bases compared to the 3 bases, or 2.5 bases of BratOK. BratOK could try to call down more mules and try to get a stronger economy going once again. He does have a lot of energy and could easily just start saturating the other mineral lines very quickly. Marauders and Marines are going to battle it out, and yeah, we are going to get some auto turrets as well. Psystorm now coming in. The auto turrets are not being cast as those High Templars are getting multiple Psystorms, splitting and forcing the Marauders and the Marines to split apart. And this is going to be a very bad battle for Minigun, even though he did get very decent Psystorms in that battle. A lot of those units are in the red, but he needed 1 or 2 more Psystorms in order to balance it out. Is there a Ghost for another EMP Shockwave? No EMP Shockwave, but multiple units are getting destroyed here. The Marauders, the probes now coming off the mineral line. It looks like more Zealots will be warping in just a moment. In comes an Archon, and the Archon, with 1 round of attack, could probably destroy much of that Bio Ball, as there is slight splash damage. 3-1 upgrades on those units now as they are retreating once again. But at 41 or 4350, the amount of damage that these units can do, even though they are at about a quarter life, is still very impressive. And I do not think that Minigun has enough of an army to be able to absorb damage before he can actually dish it back out. Perhaps 1 or 2 Psystorms would help. There is a decent number of High Templars. The High Templars could be able to get off 2 or 3 Psystorms, but there are also a lot of Ghosts. In comes some auto turrets now, so the auto turrets acting as a first line of defense, and sniping down the High Templar. So another High Templar gonna get sniped down. There goes another one, and now just damage being dealt one after the other. The Ghost now moving out. Are we gonna get another EMP Shockwave? And now an Archon trying to make its way in. Psystorm, EMP Shockwave, so much damage being dealt across the Marauders. The Marauders are now out of the Psystorm, and now that is going to be it. Minigun doesn't stand a chance. An Archon trying to be merged, not going to see the light of day. And now the Marauders and Ghosts are going to finish off this expansion location, and there's the GG. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this 1v1 replay between BratOK and Root Minigun here on Shakuras Plateau.